I am Studtastic Studios, and here we have today is Connectthebrick, and his name is Eric, and we have him with us today for a great stream. And to start things off, very basic question: um, what got you into Lego to begin with?
Long time actually, probably since I was like 4 or 5 or so. Um, I started out actually, I used to be really into Playmobil, and I remember one Christmas I got a Lego set, and I was actually so mad because I was like, "Oh man, I really want a Playmobil," and I did the Lego it on. It was this small little, like one of those tiny little boxes that they used to have, and it was like this tiny little car with like a tree or something in it, and I remember it was like so frustrating to put together. I was pretty young, like I said, 4 or 5. But then I don't know, something happened in between then where it just kind of like clicked where I was like, oh, this is actually pretty cool. And then I started getting other, mostly city sets at first. And then my dad showed me a Star Wars movie and I got into that. So I started collecting Star Wars and then slowly just like building up a collection. And, I think a lot of kids do this, but like we would trade and show off stuff at school. We'd bring in stuff we were supposed to, like in our pockets. And sometimes we'd do like, backdoor trays or things like that during recess. Or we'd show off like the coolest figure we just got from a set. Um, and then I always used to go to BrickCon, and I remember I was very, very just like taken aback at all the things that people would build, all the things that I put together. And I was like, wow, they really did this without like any instructions or anything. That's like totally epic. And I was like, well, one day, it was always my dream. It was like, one day I want to open a Lego store. So it's a little bit of a backstory. So I got the idea mostly from BrickCon. So I was like, I want to have something like this, but permanently, not just like 4 days out of the year. Um, and so it was kind of just always my dream that was off in the distance that I thought was never going to never going to happen. One day, I just saw that the little 89 square foot spot was um, open, and it was no longer had the business that was in there. There was the candy shop, and I yeah. And so it was, 89 square feet. And so I called up the landlord, and I remember I told my mom, I was like, it'd be cool if we had a spot there where we could sell Lego. And she was like, oh yeah, it was just kind of a joke. But I was like, I'll call up the landlord and see, kind of get into it and see if we can work something up. And so I called him up and I said, I'd be interested. I told him my idea, and he's like, well, why don't you come down? You can take a look at it. And so I was like, oh yeah, that'd be awesome. And so I was like, I called him up, or not called, I went over there and I told him about everything, and he showed me this. I was like, wow, that's so cool. He's like, I love your idea and everything, but there's 15 people ahead of you right now that all want this shop, or that all want the space. And I was like, oh my gosh, there's 15 people. Like in the couple weeks that Sugar's closed, it's like, oh my goodness. Um, there's already, so many people that want this spot. There's like a bagel shop that wanted it. There was an ice cream store that wanted it. Um, there was what else was there? There was like a smoothie shop, an ice cream parlor, a private wedding photographer's office. Like everybody wanted it. Uh, yeah, yeah. 89 square feet. You can do, it seems small, but you can do a lot with it. Um, and so he said, I love your idea. I'll take down your information. I'll get back to you when I make a decision because I'm not sure who I'll, give it to you quite yet. And so a few weeks went by, and there was a farmer's market on that road there, and I was just set up one day. I set up a little card table and I was selling Lego. I had been doing that for the past few weeks on Saturdays there. And he just happened to walk by one Saturday, like a week or two afterwards. And he's like, wow. He's like, he just saw me there. And he's like, you're really committed to this. He's like, if it's fine with your parents, you can lease the spot from me. Um, and I remember my parents had told me before, they're like, well, if he lets you lease the spot from him, we'll help you out, at the shop, thinking there's like no way that he would let me lease the spot. 15 people ahead of me that all wanted it that had inquired before. And so in that moment, I was like bouncing off the walls. My parents were like, what did we just get ourselves in? And so I told him I was like, thank you for the opportunity and everything. And so a few weeks went by, and he called up the Tacoma News Tribune, which is kind of the local paper around here. And he said, given this kid an opportunity, you should come do a story on him. And so he brought someone down on my grand opening day was a photographer there and everything. And I thought, my 10-year-old brain thought, nobody reads the newspaper anymore. Says, "What, I'm going to be on the front page, big deal, whatever." And so I answered all the questions and everything, and he said, "Oh, it's going to be out on a Wednesday. It's like July 22nd or 23rd, something like that, 2015." And so the day comes by, and we go to local grocery store, we pick up the paper. My mom's like super happy about it. She's like telling the clerk and everything, like, "This is my son on the front page." And then, again, I thought big deal. And I remember that afternoon after lunch, we went to go open up the shop, and there was a line of people waiting outside. And I was like, "Oh my gosh," it's like people actually read the newspaper. I remember that day we sold about half the store, which was actually not that much because back then we had like a couple hundred minifigures, maybe like, I don't know how many pre-built sets, not that many sealed, just things that I'd found some stuff on sale, and then I'd found some stuff, summer clearance season. So I found, went around hunting for deals, and so that was a lot of fun. I remember, yeah, I turned to my mom at the end when we closed, right before we closed, and I was like, "What are we gonna do? How are we gonna restock the shop? Because it's like we sold like half of it, and there's only 89 square feet. It's gonna look empty." So slowly, people just start bringing stuff to trade and sell. The classic model buy sell trade. So people bring in their stock, and maybe they've got somebody's just not into Lego anymore. They're trying to downsize, or maybe they, see the newest wave that came out. And they're like, "Oh, I wanna get some of those, but I've got no space for them, so I need to make space." And they bring them in, get store credit, or sell it. Or maybe they're, going off to college or something, and just not into Lego, or they need money for tuition, so they bring it by, and we can buy it from them. Or like I said, you get a little bit more in store credit. Yeah, so people just start bringing in stuff to trade and sell. And some people even were, they thought, "This is a great thing you got going here with your business, and you're such a young entrepreneur." They just like donated it to us, which was, I'd never expected that. So bring sets and their figures, and they'd be like, "This has been in my attic um, for 20 years, and my sons are off doing their own thing, and I just want to donate this to you." And so I was like, "Wow, did not expect that, but that was really really cool."
Come in, everyone.
Yeah, how's it going?
A line of people just showing up that very first time.
Word of mouth, and I guess a good old fashioned newspaper.
Thinking about that too, it's like 10 years. Like it feels like the other stores around here too. Like they've hit 10 years too recently too. Like I think the Brick House they just hit 10 years, and Bricks and Wheels.
Mouse. I think there might be 11 or 10 or 11 for them. Yeah, for a while for sure.
Like I don't know.
And there was just a few of us, and now they're everywhere.
Exactly. So then also let's go on to Whatnot. So how do you deal with like your physical store and your, as you say, virtual store on Whatnot?
I'm like, "Oh, I think this would." There's some things that just on Whatnot do really well. Well, first off, we should go back and try to do how I got on there and everything. So back in March of 2024, Whatnot reached out to me, and they said, this is, they kind of gave me the elevator pitch of like, this is Whatnot, which I already knew, what it was. I'd heard about it. And, Maddie's minifigures on there, and M&R Productions, Solidbrick Studios, and all the other people. Um, and so they reached out and gave me the elevator pitch, and I was like, "Well, I'm not really in school right now. Got a lot of things going on. Got my shop, got Bricklink, got eBay, school, life in general."
That's wild.
And they down for like a call. We can kind of go over things. I was like, "Sure," and did not expect for it to be the Brickwiz, if you know who that is. He's a Lego Star Wars YouTuber, and what brought him on. Yeah, he hasn't done stuff recently, but now he works for Whatnot. And so he gave me the elevator pitch, and I was like, "Well, I'd let you know maybe in a few months." And so my first mission was like, "Well, if we're gonna," and they said they're, we're gonna promote the show for you and get as many people in there as possible, and blast it out to everyone. And so, and they gave me this offer, and they gave me some, incentives to come on the app. And so I was like, "Okay, I'll look into it." And I, a few months went by, and I'd been watching Whatnot more consistently and seeing like, how it worked and everything. And because it's Whatnot is unlike any other platform. It's on like eBay, it's on like Amazon, it's on like Bricklink, it's on like brick and mortar. It's its own thing. The way the way it's run, giveaways, everything like that. It's just like it's its own universe. Um, and there's no other app that really compares to it before the copycats came on that that have popped up recently. Um, and so I kind of studied it, see how it worked, and I remember I became kind of in friends a little bit with some of the sellers, knowing from them, buying off them. And I remember, and then fast forward to May, I remember I met Duck Bricks, and he was on Whatnot, and he was selling some stuff for some people, and so I thought, why, why don't you come down? Would you be willing to come down to my shop and do a Whatnot show for us on commission? He was like, yeah, absolutely. He's like really down with it. He's very chill dude. And he came but down and we did a show and he auctioned off some stuff. So I kind of got more of a feel for it, packing orders and that sort of thing. And so a few months went by, July came around, and I thought, maybe I'll kind of link it up with my anniversary. So I'll do, Whatnot, basically our 9-year anniversary during Whatnot, our first Whatnot show. And so I did it, and it went. I wasn't sure I was going to go. I remember I was practicing, like, what am I going to say and everything, but kinda natural to me, people would just go live to do for like a giveaway and raid into another seller. And a raid is like you take all your people and you pass it on to the next seller. Um, I don't know if YouTube has something like that, but sometimes you do that, to support a small seller. Maybe you've had a loyal buyer and they started selling, so you want to support them. So sometimes I'll do that. And it just amazes me, how many people will show up just randomly, whenever. Um, and so I started selling on there. I remember I was like, I used to watch the one-off shows, and I was like, "How is this, figure that you're starting off at a dollar and it's worth 40, and now it's actually going for 40, and it started at a dollar in the in the time of like 30 seconds." It's like, how did this happen? Yeah, people start swiping, and it's like, how are there so many people that want the same figure in this show? Like, and so I remember I went live, and there were a few people. I remember Fritz, if you know who he is, Fritz's Bricks. Um, he does some YouTube, and he also does Whatnot very a lot. And he found me through the Duck Brick show, and so he followed me and started chatting. And remember, he was the first bookmark my show, and he was the first person to reach out and say like, "Here's my number. Call me anytime if you need anything. You need, you know, uh, any sort of support or help. Navigating through anything." And remember, I talked to him the night before my first show, and he's like, "You're gonna do great," and gave me lots of tips and tricks. And so I'll forever be grateful to him. To him, shout out to him. Remember, my first show happened, and I went live, and there were like a few people came in, and then the push notification that Whatnot had blasted out to everyone went through, and there was like 100+ people in my show, and I was like, oh my gosh. So I start doing this overview, and people just start typing stuff in the chat, and I just start grabbing things, and all of a sudden I have this massive queue of like 50 minifigures that we got to run through, and we just get started. And I got like Star Wars music going, and there's just it kind of reminded me of selling at conventions, because you just like go through so much inventory so quickly, and it was a really fun time. I went for a couple hours, and I made, a decent amount of money, and I was very, it was a lot of work, but I think it paid off for me. So it's like, keep going. And these promotions that Whatnot had put, these incentives that Whatnot had come forth with were for a month. So I was like, I'll try it out for a little bit. I made pretty good amount. So I went live the next week and the next week, and went live for like every week for about a month or so. And then I went every other, school started up, and so I went every other week and slowly start growing. And I remember my first show, I wasn't sure how many people I would get and how many people, would follow me. And I remember at the end of the first show, I had just about 400 followers, and I was like, oh my gosh, that's crazy. And I was worried because I was like, next time I go live, are people still going to show up? And so I did. And remember that show was pretty low viewership, but you just kept going, and it was summer, people had time off, so they were on. So I was trying to just grow as fast as possible and go live as much as I could. And so fast forward to today, we just hit 8,000 followers last show, which is pretty nice. But Whatnot's kind of just different in the way that it's kind of a revolving door. So there's always old buyers that are, move on to other things, and new buyers coming in. And then of course there's just this little base in between that's, always on, and always, regular customers. And so that's, the viewership is like half of them are probably older, people that have shown up before, and then the other half are newer people, and then whatever percentage in between are just givey goblins that are there for the free stuff that you that you give away, which I'll never understand. To me, it's like, you're using up, taking up 2 hours of your time to just have a chance at winning, an Arcland set here or whatever. I'll never understand that, but and I try to study it a lot to see like the viewership, like how it goes, if you do consistent giveaways, and whenever you do a giveaway, on the app, and a buyer wins it and they haven't bought anything, but you what not bills you the shipping. Um, and so it's completely, and if the buyer already bought something and they want to give away, then you just, send them whatever you're giving away. Um, there's small things, like I'll do like a lot of sellers do B1 or B2 battle droids. Um, other sellers will do like I just recently started to do like lightsaber giveaways. So I'll do like a pack of like three or something like that. And people like that, they get the free shipping, which is the most expensive part usually, and then they'll get some lightsabers, and people have like that. And then of course there's a lot of sellers do bigger giveaways at the end, to try. They'll do some sellers go crazy and they'll do like a UCS Venator or something like that. A lot of shows or like they'll do, like I usually do smaller, do like an Arc 170 or maybe if it's like a special occasion or something, I'll do like an ATT or like a gunship or something like that. But there's a lot of sellers that will do sometimes like UCS giveaways or big giveaways every week, which some sellers do for fun, and so they can just use all their profit and buy up giveaways and stuff to give away. But I, got to pay for college tuition, got to pay for rent, bills. So, yeah,
But, like, some people are able to do that and just kinda
yeah. The community, yeah, the community on there is great. Minus, a couple people here and there that are just there to cause trouble, like everywhere. There's always going to be people like that, unfortunately. But for the most part, I mean, like we all, like we got, like seller group chats. Sometimes we'll hop on Zoom calls and talk about stuff, and just like talk about how things are going. There's talk about different strategies or different things we're doing to try to get more people in, or what things are selling well lately, or like this morning. There's this one seller said, I just got a bunch of these blue milk Luke poly bags, and I can give them to you at a good price. If you buy like a this many, I can do this price, or if you buy a whole case. And so there's some sellers in there like, yeah, I want it, or no, or things like that. And so it's really, and like if I got in, like 500 blue milk Lukes, I'd probably do the same thing. So like there's another seller who's like, I'm getting in like 20 Revens. Do you guys, want be willing to sell you like one or two, and you guys can make a little bit off of it. So the community there is really, really good among, there's different factions, right? There's like different, a lot of the influencers tend to stick close to each other. And then there's, the ones that maybe are just like younger sellers stick with each other, or just like people who've been there a long time. There's different, sections of the community, but we get along with each other pretty well. Yeah.
yeah, that's really cool that you've been able to do that, and, I think it's just really fascinating how something like that just kinda happened.
There's certain things that do terribly on there. Dollar store. Not really. I've gotten to the point where, like, once you start building up enough followers, you could just go live on any day, and you could get, unless you're going live at like 3 in the morning, which no one would, no sane do. Um, Uh, yeah, sometimes people, you just go live for like a giveaway show. Like the other day, I did a giveaway show, and there were like 270 people in there, and I was like, "Where did all these people show up? Like, how is this? Because I was trying to get into a smaller seller that I'd met at Brick World last month, and really good guy, and he's been doing, trying to grow a lot more. Um, and so I just did a giveaway show, and I was like, I put in the title "Free Plo Koon Starfighter." All these people, all these goblins show up to like, oh, we need a free Plo Koon Starfighter. So the titles would do that, or like there's another seller on there who's grown a lot too, started around the same time, but he did it very, very consistently, and he does a lot of big giveaways, and he'll do like the other day he did like the free like the hot rod snow speeder, and he found it early, and he did a giveaway show, and he was like, he put that in the title, and there's like 400 people showed up. It's like, right, and they know it's right. The giveaway runs for 5 minutes, and then you go into the right into the next seller and try to help them out, support them. And so there's a lot of that. I remember Fritz told me one of the best advice he gave me was, don't be afraid to ask for a raid. Raid is just like a seller goes live for 5 minutes, they do a giveaway, and then they move all your viewers into your show. And so the hope is that, some of them will stick around and hopefully they'll buy something off you, or you're on a giveaway, and they'll follow you or whatever, and so that you'll start growing more. And so that's been something that I try to do a lot. So the way I look at it is like, say if I give away something small, usually, like a file first clone trooper, and then I got to pay the shipping costs, all in all, it's probably going to be like $7 or $8, right? And so if I write it to this person and say, give them like 100 people, 150 people, and some of them stick around and they bid up stuff, and they make more money, then it's like I spent $7 or $8, and because of this raid, I put more people in their show, and they end up making, 50 more dollars because all these people were in here and they started bidding stuff up, over the show. So that's kind of
And promoting them basically.
people that I know, and we kind of all know each other. We're like, gotten to a point where I think a lot of us consider ourselves like friends, and so that's been really fun. We got to meet at Brickworld too, in Chicago, and that was a lot of fun, and we, you know, got to got to hang out and buy Lego and we did a charity show, a couple sellers did a charity show for Brickworld. We raised like $15,000, and that was crazy. Rated into it, and we uh we all signed this shirt that went for like $300, right? Who wants my signature, and all these other people that just sell and whatnot. But there was a lot of people in there with deep pockets that wanted to support it, so that was went to Make a Wish. So that was a lot of fun. So very fun. Yeah.
The first one you went to? I'm assuming that was the one that you went to when you were younger, right? At BrickCon. So how long have you been going to these, and yeah, what's your experience like?
There's this, if you know Sasquatch bricks. I remember one day before I had a shop here in University Place, right by Tacoma. He said, you should sell at BrickCon, and he told me how much he sold, and it was a lot of money. And I was like, oh my gosh, he sold that much in 4 days, and he's like, yeah, he's like, you should really do it. And the people there are always trying to get in like local folks, and so I reached out and I applied, and everything, I got accepted, and I was like, whoa, because they only have room usually for about a third of the people that apply to sell, and so I was very very happy about that, and I set up everything. We had all these minifigures and sets and everything. I didn't make as much as Sasquatch Bricks did, but I made enough to be like, wow, this is a lot of money. Um, and so I applied for the next year, and I also got in. I sold there for a few years. It's a lot of fun. It's a lot of work, and you get convention hall. Floors are just brutal. Um, and you have a really good time. But then I did it. Last one I did was 2020 with them online, and then after that, just kind of didn't have a whole lot of time with high school and everything, and now college, and I got whatnot going on, so I haven't done it recently, in quite a few years. But I still go there as an attendee, which is actually a lot more fun because you get to play the games, get your good bag, you get to hang out with people, and you don't have the stress of like, oh, what's going on my booth? I have to go back. People bring in stuff to trade or sell or whatever. Um, and so that's been a lot of fun to kind of get that aspect, kind of get gotten the best of both worlds. Gotten to vend there, which I'm very grateful for, and then just to go there as an attendee and enjoy. Lego is a hobby. Go there with a friend. Usually I go there. I have like one good friend who's still into Lego. Everybody else has moved on, so you should go. And then I've gone to Bricks Cascade one year in Portland. That was a lot of fun. It just happened to line up with my spring break, so I was like, why not? Just drove up there and went there for a few days. And then most recently Brick World, which is my second year back in June. First year kind of got into it, just kind of getting the vibe of things, and then this year brought along a lot of whatnot sellers. So it was a lot of fun. Very, and you always, you think, these are 4 or 5 day long conventions, and you think you're going to be able to see everything, get everything done that you want, but it's not enough time. It's before you know it, it's over. You're packing stuff, and you're on the airplane. Yeah, right. Time just works differently at conventions. It's just like I don't even know how to describe it. It's like flies. Like San Diego Comic Con is happening this weekend, and they'll run promotions. Like right now, they've got reduced fees, and they're half fees. So instead of 8% commission, they collect 4% commission, and so a lot of sellers will hop on. Like this weekend's going to be crazy. And I go schedule, but I scheduled it a long time ago, so it's got a lot of bookmarks. And I'm telling people about it, to bookmark the show, and I can pre-list a lot of the higher end figures. And so I've been trying to do that. I'll probably do that right after this, and I'll get those going, and then I'll put it in the chat before the show starts. Pre-bids are open, and people can start bidding on stuff. And so I've been trying to lock everything in because you got M&R Productions going for a couple days this weekend. You got Solidbrick Studios, you got Stud Stash. You have Maddie's minifigures. You have all the big sellers coming in, and It's hard to compete with them, but, I'm giving away a free UCS X-Wing, so hopefully it'll be, I wanted to go all out for the one-year show, so hopefully it'll be a show. Yeah.
Yeah, have you ever displayed a mock at a convention?
Imperial base. I wish I had it here. It's in my room. But I won't go get the big box. Um, maybe if I come on another time, maybe I'll have it here. I can show you. But it's two of those big gray base plates. Two of the what are they? 48 by no 64 by 64, something like that. I think, or 48 by 48, maybe. Yeah, I think it's 48 by 48. Two of those, put them together, and did a one big Imperial base. Loaded up with stormtroopers and all sorts of things. And that was a lot of fun. I really enjoyed building that. Took a while because of school and everything. Took about a year to put it together. And I did everything was off my imagination except for the turrets. I looked up on Bricklink. Somebody made some nice turrets. And yeah, and I enjoy displaying them, and used to enjoy playing with them a lot, and I enjoy selling them. Um, but it's just I don't know. I get really inspired off of the stuff, the things I see off Instagram and that sort of thing. Um, I don't know. There's just I think you have to have a certain knack for it. Certain just like with artists. Some people just have like a natural talent at things. And for me, I can build from an instruction, and I can put blocks together, but stuff that people put together is just like insane. They, yeah, yeah. And you run out of pieces so quickly too. Um, like putting this base together in order, 200 of these, 1 by 6 bricks or 1 by 8 bricks off of Pick a Brick. And first of all, you think it's going to be inexpensive because it's like 10 cents for this piece, 15 cents for this piece. But if you want like 200 of them and 200 this one and 300 this one, then all of a sudden it's like hundreds of dollars. And then they show up, and then you run out, and you see this huge pile of bricks. And you're like, oh, I'll never run out. I'll be able to build a huge thing with it. And then you
Uh-huh.
just
I've been using the Powerball they got, and sometimes they have good stuff. Like I got a lot of 1 by 3 and 1 by 4 white bricks, and I was just like, all right, that'd be great for like a clone base or making a best pin or something. So I get a bunch of those, and by the way, it's a great value as well. Like I've kind of experimented with it and just kind of like looked at what they're going for online and just like added up each individual piece. And literally, it's like a third the price. It's crazy.
so that they had the blue lightsaber blades, and so I got a couple cups full of those, and slowly I never thought I'd be able to run out, but slowly I've just been because every time I get minifigures in, if they don't have lightsabers, I try to give them one, and so I've been running through them. They're not they're 9 cents on Pick a Brick, and I'll probably get them around the same price, maybe a little more, maybe a little less. But if you want them in big quantities, Pick a Brick is usually the way I go. So it's like 10 cents for each one, and I did the math, and for the lightsaber blades, it's like like half a penny or something like that. Something
It's wild what ends up being because like I got a few weeks ago. I utilized the what do you call it? The VIP 2 times insider points for that with the good promo, the Jane Austen promo. So I did that, and I made a large order in for a lot of the 16 by 16 Technic base plate, that popular one that's used for a lot of mosaics. Yeah, so I've been got a lot of those because I'm like that'd be a great way to start off doing like mock building because it's very modular.
the base plate. uh, Having the smaller ones and making it. The thing about modular, sometimes there's tiny little discrepancies with how the bricks are put together, right? And so sometimes it's like for my base, I did one big roof for it, and it wasn't. Sometimes it doesn't want to click together. It's just like these tiny little, like it's a fraction of like a little bit off, and so the bricks perfectly line up with the actual base and then the roof to it. And so sometimes that's something you got to consider too. It's like if you make it too modular, um, that it won't stick together. But that's you know if you're doing bigger scale stuff like that. So I think about how much of a nightmare it'd be for the mocks the SolidWorks Studios makes. They're just massive, and that's why I understand why he uses like Technic, and he does it modular, like in a really nice way where he does, the Technic pins kind of fits it all together, so it's like a little bit smoother. Prob- yeah, yeah,
There's a lot of other people too out there, which is
very inspiring.
and stuff. Yeah. So I was just kind of looking at that, and I'm like, all right. I mean, I would, yeah. I had a pretty good idea of kind of what pieces maybe he was gonna pick out, but a few of them I was kind of surprised. I'm like, well, maybe I'll try them out. Which is just
Mhm.
yeah. So your main focus point, main Lego theme is Lego Star Wars, right? Yeah. Uh huh.
And whatnot. So we'll um see how that goes. I don't know. There's not a huge audience for non-Star Wars stuff and whatnot, but there's some out there. There's Whoppy Bricks. I don't know if you know who he is. He does a lot of non-Star Wars stuff, and he does pretty well. But he's got a shop as well, so he gets a lot of people that join through that. And so at the shop, my shop, the Star Wars stuff definitely sells best far. It doesn't even compare. And then it used to be superheroes at number 2, but it's kind of fallen off a little bit, and now it's in Ninjago's number 2. I sell so many Ninjago now, and they're pretty, cheap to source, and kids love them, and you can make, a lot of kids love, putting them together, and you give them like a katana or something, and they just love it, or some sort of sword or something, and all the snakes and skeletons and everything like that that they can use in Ninjago. It's a very versatile theme that a lot of people have gone into recently. Okay. Yeah, kid, it was a thing, but now, mostly stuck to Star Wars. Had to pick my lane because it's like so much stuff out there.
Like they stopped at season 6. Yeah, and then it was like oh, what was it? It was like 4 or 5 years in between when they released the seventh one finally. Like in between that gap, I think I watched like a lot of Ninjago because I was just looking for that show to fill the gap a little bit. But yeah, so going back to Lego Star Wars and like your first Lego set, what was your first Lego Star Wars set that you got? Yeah.
I remember there's a few sets that I distinctly remember picking up. There was the Mandalorian Battle Pack, um, back in this is the first one with the Death Wash Warriors, and I remember getting that one from some store in Gig Harbor. I don't know why I remember that. I'm getting across the bridge and came back, and I remember building it on the floor of my house, in my room. I don't know why, just an odd memory. And then I remember going to Toys R Us and picking up the ARC Trooper Battle Pack, the Rancor ARC, with the R from the Commando droids. I remember building that on my bed and the cannon and everything. And then I remember I had a really hard time hunting down the 2014 Bark Speeder with Captain Rex and Obi Wan Kenobi and Droid Captain. And I remember one time I found it at Walmart. I guess it was a Walmart exclusive. So I found it, and I didn't go to Walmart too often. And so I went there, and they had it on rollback for $20. And I was like, dang. And they had like this entire wall of them. It almost seemed like they couldn't get rid of them. And they had it on rollback for 20. And so I bought two. I bought one for me, and then told my mom I'm going to keep this one for investment. And so I did. And I sold it a few years during 2020, right when everything was going up. I put it on sale for like $60 and I sold it. And that's like one of my biggest regrets is like I should have right as season 7 was coming out, and it just sold immediately and then started skyrocketing. And um, I also remember picking up that same set in California at Legoland, Disney, to Disney, the Disneyland there. So those are kind of some of my core memories. I remember getting a lot of other sets. Check 14 Starfighter. I remember got that for my birthday. I remember getting like the old school ATT from a local shop around here. I remember got that for Christmas, and so there's a lot of good memories. I remember playing, with friends, having them over. Like, and I always used to say, I would line them all up, and then I say, when their accessory falls off, if you've got a gun or something, that means they're dead. So if you do like some sort of explosion or something happens, if you take out their accessory falls off, that means they're dead. So we'd always play like that, and we'd have different factions, clone clones versus droids, or stormtroopers versus rebels, and that sort of thing.
A lot of sets during the 2014 ish era of sets. So I got the anti-vehicle cannon and the B wing, and yeah, and the V wing as well. And like I remember vividly getting those sets because I think I was like all in like 1 year. Oh, and the 2014 Cantina as well.
The wolf packs, right? Yeah, I remember seeing that one at the Lego store, but I couldn't, I had to choose between that one and something else, and I went with whatever else other thing. And now, those wolf packs are like 70, $80 on their own edition. And so it's like, oh, just, and I remember seeing the ATOT as well, ATOT with dropship at the Lego store, for however much it was. I was pretty young, it's probably like 5 or 6 years old. And just crazy how it's gone up. I think it might have been like that. Yeah. Lego was cheap back then compared to what it is.
Yeah, yeah. I wonder what the market's gonna look like for Lego in like 10 years. Like it's just crazy to see because like now it's like because back then it was like there's lower quantities obviously because more people have gotten into Lego since like 2020. Like a very big resurgence has happened, but it's gonna be interesting to see how the market pans out with all these minifigures and sets.
Everything's going to look like a microfighter. And so they're going to have to stop somewhere. And just crossroads. It's not working. Whatever they're, well, it is working, but it's not working for us. They keep making things that people buy up. And so I don't know. Something's going
Obviously, you're willing to give up lots of plastic spare parts because if you go to Pab, like they're selling them for pretty cheap. And it's just like,
hasn't here, right. Y-
fit inside the sets to make it a little bit bigger. I mean, yeah, it's just one of those things. Yeah.
Like, yeah, it's not like this super high quality thing that like only Lego is made out of ABS plastic. Like, there's so many things made out of ABS plastic. It's not like realistically, there's like the new Slave One is probably like a few dollars worth of ABS plastic. Of course, I get you have to pay for the mold and license and all these other things onto it, but it's still like, I don't know, all in all, they probably paid like, you know, 15, $20 for that Slave One to be made at, if I had to guess, they probably pay like 10, 15, 20, 25 cents for maybe a quarter for each minifigure they make, you know. Or-
They should be including more minifigures in their sets. Like, it's just kinda outrageous, I think. Like, if you're gonna downsize a set, you gotta add some more thing on the other side. Like, if you're gonna downsize a vehicle, add give us a few more minifigures or something. Because, unfortunately, minifigures carry most of the value of the set.
they're gonna do what they got. What they got. What other scheme they have? What are they pulling? Maybe they'll downsize minifigures next. So like we downsize bills, downsize them enough. Yeah, make everything look like a micro figure now. Um, Hopefully they're not listening. I don't want them to do that. Um, yeah, not good.
$100 by the end of the decade, which does not sound good. Yeah. Is there any like I don't know, like a Star Wars set that kind of you're chasing, like a few of them that you want to get?
Ryan, M&R Productions, was doing this one I showed the other day, and he said, "I'm kind of been jaded lately by a lot of Lego stuff, um, whether it's, like no waste caves and that sort of thing." And I've kind of the same um, sort of opinion. And I, for me, it's just like, I don't know. There's some of it, like when I was a kid, I was so excited when the new wave would drop, and now it's like new sets are coming out. I was like, whatever. Um, and so there's certain things that like I would say I'm not necessarily chasing a specific set, but there's a certain set that I want them to make, which is the Endor Bunker, and I want it to be a UCS set or an Ultimate Collector, or not. The what's the other thing that they Master Builder series? I don't know if they still do that, but I want them to make a big Endor Bunker. I always loved. I loved Episode 6. I love those scenes with the Ewoks, and the stormtroopers and ATST and everything. And so I'm really hoping that they do that like within the next couple of years. And that would be a day one buy for me. I would drive to the Lego store and go and pick that up. But any sort of like base, I really want them to make. So I don't know if there's anything that I'm after right now that they've made. Maybe like the Endor bunker, um, or some other set like that. I can't. That's the first one that comes to mind is the Endor bunker.
Yeah,
But yeah, I really want them to make a UCS Endor bunker.
same.
Um,
Yeah, because it's just
and
like
and
it's
Ewok
weird to go
Village
back.
to
It's
go side
like
by.
the Ewok Village and that the older indoor bunker set. I mean, those are two great sets, but like, yeah, uh-huh. Like the way with those kind of sets with the Browns is like you probably are the best bet to buy used. But but eventually they changed it, which is good. That they acknowledged it and changed it. Yeah. It's wild, I think, that Lego sometimes will go out of the way to like change something in the set. Like just recently that Orc 170, just changed the windscreen. Yeah. Yeah. Exactly. Cause like, geez, I don't know what they're doing. Because people have made I just thought of this like the other day. Thanks for stopping by, Royal Bricks. And what was I gonna say? Oh yeah, yeah. I was just thinking about this the other day. Um, I heard someone say that Lego claims that they can't use wastegapes because they can't sit down or something. I think it was M&R who said that. And I was thinking of the superheroes and how Batman and they have all those rubber capes now. And I'm like, they can't sit down either. So what's going on? Yeah, yeah. So I was thinking of that, and I'm like, hmm, very weird. I mean, now it's not a nightmare. Like, geez, what if they bring the rubber capes over to Star Wars? That would be that would stir something else up. Yeah. Like, is it really that more expensive? Like, come on. You're telling me that a piece of fabric costs more than molding a rubber cape? Yeah. All right.
I don't know. I've been once, yeah, in second grade. I've done the one going. I do want to go to the one in Florida for sure. Got a cousin out there in Florida, and so maybe I'll head out there sometime soon and Wanna go to the factory where they have all those pieces that are, like, left over, sometimes they'll like, Evan, I don't know if you've seen his vlogs, he has, um, like, non-production pieces in there, that's really cool, at the Legoland there. Yeah.
It's just so massive. Yeah, I think it'd be really cool to just like go on a shopping spree. Yeah. So, uh, more about Brickell, Chicago, because that's kind of a big deal. Yeah. So, what kind of urged you to go that first time? Yeah.
Thought I'd go out there, and so I went out there with my dad, and I remember played foosball, that was really, really fun, and I remember my dad went up against Life Bricks, if you know who that is, Tyler, and beat him very soundly, and I remember dad had no idea who it was, right? And so they call his name up, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, he's going up against Life Bricks," and this horde of people come by, all the vloggers and everybody with their phones and cameras. My dad's like, "Oh my gosh, like, who is this person?" But they were nice, they shook hands and everything, that was a lot of fun. And Chicago's beautiful. It's not in Chicago itself; it's in Schaumburg. It's a suburb. It's a nice little village of Schaumburg. They've got a Lego store there. They've got Lego Discovery Center, and Chicago itself is a beautiful city. So it was a whole lot of fun. And then this next year, I started telling one of us about it, and they had no idea what it was. A lot of them, and so Fritz did a lot of uh, reaching out to people and convincing them to come. And so we had a nice little, very big group people actually um, come by, and we had a lot of fun there. Never, no, yeah, never been that far out east actually. Mostly stayed at the yeah, and so never been out that far, and so it's a beautiful city for sure. I love all the skyscrapers and everything. And this past year, we went to go get deep dish pizza, and so that was nice. And the Lego store there, they have this these Lego builds of like the Willis Tower. They used to be called the Sears Tower and skyline and everything. So pretty cool. Right. River, I've heard they've pretty good reputation for having a good convention there. I'd say that'd probably be my number one, or maybe like Atlanta BrickCon. I've heard they have good convention too out there. So somewhere over there. But yeah, never been to Georgia, so that would be my first time there. That'd be fun. Or maybe there might be a couple. I'm not sure. Yeah,
And it's like, what's in California? I mean, I don't know because like you would think you would think it'd be pretty big because you got Legoland down there, and it's like feels like it'd be a mock builder's dream just to be have access to all those parts. Yeah, but then again, I think you probably say the same thing about Florida. Because is there one in Florida? Right. Yeah. Uh-huh. Yeah. I was just kind of thinking because have you heard of the Fan Expo kind of what do you call it, company or whatever that does like Comic Cons and like lots of cities and stuff? I was just thinking like if there was like a company like that, but like did it in like I guess there would be a traveling convention kind of, but maybe a little bit more like I don't want to say a little bit more involved, but like a lot more like a little bit more professional, I would say. Yeah. Yeah. I think it would be cool if something like that were to happen. Or even like and on top of having the Lego stuff, even if they had like maybe some actors that maybe portray character from Lego set to be there as well. That's yeah, because I feel like lots of people will buy that set and want to get it signed and stuff. Yeah. Do you have any like any personal goals for where you want to be?
Just tell my parents and friends, if I just sell Lego and take photos for the rest of my life, I'll be a happy man. So, I don't have, I just enjoy selling Lego. I enjoy collecting Lego, enjoy building Lego, and so I'll keep doing that, even though pretty much none of my friends are into it anymore. I still enjoy it a lot personally. So I think we'll continue to grow Whatnot a lot, do more events with them, and continue to grow that. I think feasibly I could probably open up, maybe do that store more hours, open it up more hours, and do Whatnot and Bricklink and eBay, and maybe it could make a full time income. Who knows? That'd be pretty cool. Maybe sell some photos on the side or something. So, but I'm not sure. I'll get through college, obviously, got to graduate, and do that. And goal is no debt so far. And so, uh, uh, but I'm also not going to super expensive university, just University of Washington. So, gotten some scholarships, and so that's helped out a lot. And just trying to focus on that. And I'm not sure what I'll use my degree for, but I'm trying to, I kind of look at it as like, just a safety net. Is that work a 9 to 5 or anything? But like if it, is of use, I'd rather do it now than go back as a 40-year-old and be like, oh, I wish, I didn't get this job because I didn't have a degree, or I have to go back and study for 4 years, as an old guy. Do it when I was young. But then at the same time, I also think, right now is the youngest that you'll ever be. So should I just go and explore the world and take it all in? But I don't know. And, it's just the way I look at it. It's like, so expensive. I could use all those thousands of dollars to go and explore the world and get all these experiences. But I think, I don't know. Sometimes it's just, sometimes you think about it and it's like, oh, why am I doing this? Why am I reading this book or writing this paper? Um, but I just kind of think of like, gotta think about the long term goal where it's like, I'll just be happy that I got it out of the way and I got this piece of paper that says I can do stuff. you know? Yeah.
This year I went on a road trip down to Southern California. Yeah, so that was lots of fun, and yeah, eventually I want to go to. I don't know. It'd be nice to go to Brick World Chicago, but like, I don't know. It's a lot. It's a lot of time. Yeah.
And you know, have a good time with them. Even though going on your own is not bad necessarily because you'll meet lots. Always meet new people. But I find it really fun when you go with a group of people or even just like one buddy or somebody that's into it. Hmm. Exactly. Exactly.
To the what do you call it? I did the Warner Bros. Studio tour. Yeah, yeah. It's a very kind of I don't know. I want to say niche because I don't think a lot of people know about it. Because usually a lot of people know about like the Universal Studios does it and like on this tram and stuff. Um, but yeah, they just pretty much so you pull into like this parking garage, like you almost feel like you're in the wrong spot, but you're in the right place because there's like no one there. And of course it's a movie studio, so they're always working on stuff there. And so it was a really good experience because then you get there, you wait in line. They have a museum there as well. Actually, several museums that you kind of walk through, and then you get on like this tour bus, and they take you through the back lot they have there, and pretty much like they take you anywhere you want on the back lot. Like you just discuss it basically with the driver, which is kind of cool. So like every time you go on there, it's different. But anyways, that was a really cool thing. But one of the exhibits they had the minifigures from the Lego Movie there on display. Yeah. So that was a really cool surprise to see. Yeah. I completely spaced on the question, but I was gonna ask someone that worked there if, there's a difference between those minifigures and the ones that LEGO actually produced. Yeah. Yeah, who knows? Because I might have to go back and ask that question. But, yeah. Do you, follow any Star Wars stuff outside of LEGO? Like, do you watch, like, the rumors and stuff, like Star Wars Theory or something? Yeah.
Who they are. They do some good breakdowns. Um, yeah, mostly, yeah, some Star Wars theory and, like I said, new rock stars. I'd say probably the two. I don't know. I'm sure there's a ton of new creators. There's new ones popping up every day, but kind of stick to, you know. Right. Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah. They look really high quality for sure.
Stop doing for the next couple years until LEGO releases something actually great. Yeah. In the meantime, I thought it'd be cool to, like, collect all the, like, for the first 6 Star Wars films, get, like, posters, then line them up, and then get, like, a lightsaber from, and then, like, get a lightsaber of a character and put it, like, in between the movie poster. Yeah. Yeah, so then, like, have, like, a big wall filled with, like, a lightsaber, kinda dividing it a little bit. Yeah. That's kind of, like, an end goal I have. Yeah. And then, what is it? Star Wars Theory is actually coming to Portland Fan Expo next, year. So I'm probably gonna go down there and meet him 'cause I think it's pretty cool what he's doing. Yeah. Yeah, yeah.
They're coming out and everything, and then yeah, seems like a nice guy. Hmm. Yeah.
Followers, like, over 3,000,000, and, like, he treats his channel like he's, like, I don't know, like, a 10K or something. Yeah. Yeah. Is there any, Lego, YouTubers that you watch? Like,
Uh, I've been watching M&R for a while. Life Bricks, but he's been MIA for a while, even though he put out a video the other day. Uh, can't think of anyone else. But like Lego video content wise. Mhm. Yeah, it's a lot of the OGs have kind of fallen off, gone on to other things or whatever. So kind of just stick with them. With the yeah, I'm sure there's so many out there now. It's like so added to land. Like I don't even know who you are. No offense. I'm sure they make. No idea. Never seen you before. I think a lot of them are just like a lot of the you see they have like 100,000, 200,000 subscribers, but their videos don't get a whole lot of views. And so I think they're just casual subscribers, right? They see a YouTube short, oh, that was fun, I'll subscribe. But a lot of the OGs have like loyal fans that watch the long form content and who actually engage a lot. Have a loyal fan. And so it's like 100,000 followers on Instagram is not what it used to be before reels and trending audio and all that. So I don't know. Yeah, yeah. I
Yeah, for sure. Like, he was just so genuine with his videos in his review, and now it kinda feels like he kind of shows them. Yeah, at least on some sets. Like, some sets I could tell definitely feels like that he's definitely has been, like, paid off or has to take certain things of sets. Like, one that comes to example is the Zelda set, and I watched that review, and, like, he was pushing that thing so hard. Yeah, but I can't remember the last Star Wars one he kind of shilled, like, a whole lot. But every so often, he'll have a video, it's like, "What are you saying? You're telling me I should buy this overpriced Lego set that's, like, easy 40 bucks over what it should be?" And then as opposed to M&R, and it just tells you straight up what it is, pretty much. Yeah, which is nice. But it's unfortunate to see how, like, land can change a channel. Like, there's some people that I've seen that, like, they just joined land, and now they're just kinda like, I don't know, just chilling it, basically. And I just think it's kind of unfortunate, you know? Like you watch someone, you like them, and then they get part of land, and then all of a sudden, like, they're just kind of yeah, probably one of the biggest ones, I don't know if I say, but, Stud City, I feel like it's fallen into that, I feel like. Yeah. 'Cause I watched him a bit before land, and, he was a great guy, but then, like, I was watching after he joined land, it's just like, "Oh my gosh." I mean, I think he's a great guy personally, but it's just like, just the way he does his videos now is just kinda like chilling sets. Which, I mean, I guess it's kinda hard not to do if you get a set for free, but especially if it's like a $500 Lego set or $800 one, but, like, yeah, yeah, and you probably met some of those guys in person at Brick World, right? Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, City might have been the only land person that I saw Brickmaster Harry, I don't know if he's part of land. A couple other people, Duck Bricks was there, Mini Spears today. So yeah, quite a few different ones for sure. Yeah,
Yeah. So I went there. He's a pretty cool guy, like, very down to earth. I think I've DM'd him a couple times, and he's responded, which is cool. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Well, I think this is probably gonna be it for the stream. Uh, yeah. Thank
yeah. There's so much. Yeah, it's too much. I know. Yeah, and then yeah, or when your co-host comes back, maybe we can do another episode or something. I'd be happy. Yeah, happy to come back for sure. come to our shop, I'll here I got some business cards here. This is a Connect the Brick. I think that'll focus. Connect the Brick in Tacoma, Washington. It's in the Proctor District, if you know where that is. But it's in Western Washington. It's about an hour south of Seattle. So come come check us out. We got a little bit of everything. Try to keep everything, like I said, Star Wars is our best seller. We got superheroes. We got, Ninjago, a little bit, vintage as well, collectible minifigures. Try to keep a little bit of everything in stock so I can, it's hard. Sometimes collectors will come in and they're looking for a lot of retired stuff or, very niche things. I'm like, I don't have, only got 89 square feet to work with, but for sure.
In the description below. Uh, and that should take you right to the page, and you have a didn't you have like something set up on there where they can take you to like your other stuff as well? Yeah, yeah. Yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming on. I'm gonna end it here. Peace out. Have a good rest of your day. Bye.